What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a sole replacement or a sole swap on a pair of Nikes or Jordans. This should pretty much work for any pair of Jordans that have this type of sole. This is the pair that I'm actually doing it for. This is a pair of Nike Dunk high tops. I did already remove the sole off of these guys, but I will show you the process of removing the sole off of my donors so you can just basically duplicate that. This is my pair of donors right here. I got these off Amazon for like 50 bucks. These are Nike SB skateboarding shoes. But first step is gonna be taking out your insoles. Now I probably should have unlaced these first. Let's get this insole out. Once you get the sole out, you're gonna typically see this thread in here. This obviously is this thread. Now, if you do not have more of your own, when you remove this stuff, you're gonna want to try to keep it intact. But I do have some of my own that I will be using. But yeah, anyways, pretty much you're gonna want to find where one of the ends meets out and just start removing from there. All the thread in one piece. As you can see, this sole ain't going anywhere still, especially a factory sole with fresh adhesive. Now, when I took my used sole off of these, I was lucky enough that I was able to just pry it off by hand because it was already coming off. But that is more than likely not going to be the case most of the time. So there is a couple different methods you can use to get a factory fresh sole removed. One of the methods is a boiling water method. Now, I actually have personally never done this method or seen it, but I've heard about it. Another method is going to be using a heat gun. Now, I don't own a heat gun, and I don't believe a hair dryer is actually going to be hot enough. You might get lucky if you have a nice hair dryer. It might be worth, trying at least. But the easiest method, in my opinion, is going to be acetone. I got this at Rite Aid, and I got this off Amazon Prime. They were both like less than $5. It's basically just a nail polish remover, 100% acetone. Now, they do make nail polish remover without acetone, so if you buy some, just make sure you got stuff that has acetone in it. This stuff smells really strong, so we're gonna go ahead and do this outside. Normally, I have done this once before, and what I did was poured the acetone in, and I put the shoes in front of one of my little space heaters I have in my basement for like 3 or 4 minutes, and then was able to just get them off by hand. But since it's so hot outside right now, I'm gonna skip putting them in front of the heater, and I'm just gonna let them sit out here and soak for probably about 5 minutes. We're just gonna pour enough in there to fill the bottom of the shoe. You want to make sure you cover as much of this as you can. And yeah, we're gonna let these sit here and soak. Okay, so I think these guys have been soaking long enough. Oh yeah, look at this. just like that. So real quick before we go any further, I know earlier in the video I mentioned that for my donors I was using a Nike skateboard shoe, and I want to show you guys why that is. So with this skateboard shoe, you can see that the sole is super thick, and honestly when I purchased these I wasn't quite sure if this would be the case, but I was hoping that since skateboarders are known for burning through their soles, that Nike would build the soles on their skateboard shoes with, you know, more durability to them. Now I want to compare this to the sole that came off of my Dunk high tops, and probably most Jordans also have this same sole. The first piece is this thick styrofoam, which is pretty similar to just another insole. And then the actual outsole itself is this. Now I cut the sides off of this just to show you guys this comparison. Basically, you're looking at that versus this. Now this is gonna all come down to basically your personal preference. The plus side to the athletic style is that it's a lot more lightweight, and also that it's a lot more flexible. But of course the downfall is that you're gonna burn through your soles pretty easily if you wear them, you know, on a daily basis. On mine I had burnt through the heel and on the toe of the other shoe. Yeah, now the upside to the skateboard style is that, of course, it is extremely durable. You're probably never going to burn through the heel or the toe of this. But the downside is that it's pretty thick. It's not really lightweight and flexible. They're kind of heavy, but not too heavy. So, like I said, it's just going to come down to your personal preference. But anyways, moving forward, the next thing that we're going to want to do is get this glue residue off of the outsole. If you have like a Dremel tool, that would probably work perfect. So I'm going to go try to get these cleaned off real quick, just because this is the type of stuff that will lead to separation later on down the road, or gaps between your sole and your upper, and we want to try to avoid that. Got these about as residue free as they're gonna get. Honestly, wasn't that difficult like I thought it was gonna be. Basically I just took some more acetone and mixed in a little bit with my shoe cleaner and scrubbed it with a brush, and it all came off fairly easy. There wasn't a whole lot on there to begin with, but okay. So for our stitching, we're going to be using a sewing awl. I got this off Amazon. It was like less than $7 or $8, and that's actually what came with this spool of thread. But I'm going to show you guys how this works and give you a demonstration on the stitch, because once I'm actually stitching the shoe, it's kind of hard to show you what I'm doing at spots. But basically, this guy comes off. You got a spot for extra needles, but this guy, as you can see, it has a groove on one side. So the way this is gonna get threaded is, you can see this hole right here. You'll run your thread through that. Okay, now this groove, it'll come up right through here. Okay, now you can see this little cutout right here. You're gonna put your thread in through that. Well, it doesn't go through it, but it just kind of sits in it. Now, when you run the thread through your needle, you're going to want this side with the groove to be lined up exactly with this cutout. Okay, so now my needle goes in. And like I said, this groove lines up all the way from the tip of the needle down into here. And then you can just put your cap on. There you go. Okay, so now I'm going to give you guys a demonstration on how to use this. I had taken a piece of the old sole and cut it, and we're just going to pretend like this is just part of an upper, and I will show you guys how this stitch is done. Alright, so you'll pick your starting point and push your sewing awl in. Okay, now on this first one, you're going to want to pull this all the way through. Okay. Okay, so you're going to take your other piece for your inner thread, and you can pull out your sewing awl and pull it out till you got, you know, roughly 6 or so inches of extra thread, and you're gonna basically just tie these two ends in a knot. Okay, so now you can pull tight out here, and that knot will hold both those pieces of thread in place. So now we're going to move on to our second hole. Okay, so you're going to puncture your hole, and looking at the inside of the shoe now, you're going to pull this guy out just a little bit, and you're going to create yourself a loop like that. Now with your inner piece of thread, and also real quickly on your inner piece of thread, I bought a sewing needle that's curved. This is going to help tremendously, especially with the toe of the shoe. That section is hard to kind of reach your hand inside and you know, pull this thread through the loop. So if you can get yourself one of these curved sewing needles, it'll help you a lot. But yeah, so you're gonna take your inner piece of thread and you're gonna run it through this first loop, and just pull it. You know what? I'm just gonna cut this off so it's not in the way. Okay, so you pulled it through. Now you're just gonna pull your sewing all out. Boom. First stitch complete. Okay, puncture that guy. Now on the inside, pull this out just a little bit, create yourself that loop. take your inner piece of thread, run it through this first hole, and back out. Now after you complete each stitch, you're going to want to take both your inner piece and outer piece and just kind of make sure they're nice and snug. You don't need to pull either one too insanely tight, but just give them a nice tug and make sure that you know, your stitch is nice and tight looking. Okay, I'm going to show you guys one more. Now the purpose for your groove in this needle is going to help out once you get to the toe section of your shoe, because I'll show you what this is for. Okay, you puncture. Now when you go to pull out, this loop really isn't very big, so if you're trying to do this in the toe section of the shoe where you can't exactly see it and you're kind of just feeling for it, what you can do is grab hold of the loop with one finger, and you can just very easily pull yourself out as much thread as you need. This groove in the needle right here helps this thread just run through. That way you can make your loop nice and big, and then take your inner piece of thread, run it through this loop like so, and then pull out and pull both your pieces nice and snug again. Okay. This part I have not done before, the gluing, that is. Now I know that there's some pretty good glues out there, and the stuff that you are really gonna want to use is Angela's shoe cement, and you can buy it off angelasdirect.com. I bought all the stuff that I'm using for this that I didn't already have off of Amazon, and I couldn't find that stuff on Amazon. So I went with this stuff, E6000. I did a Google search on the best glues to use for shoe repairs, and this was basically one of the top rated ones. It is flexible and it is clear drying, and it's industrial strength. Go ahead and tape off my upper so that I don't get any glue from here up. Got those taped off. Now we are going to go ahead and start applying our glue. Okay, I'm going to spread this out a little bit. Like I mentioned, this is actually my first time doing the full glue, at least like one that's meant to be permanent, so I'm not entirely sure how much to use. I'm just going to use my best judgment here. I just spread a thin layer across the whole surface. Go ahead and stick our upper on, I guess. Okay, so I'm just keeping pressure down. I'm also trying to keep this this like very top little section here is the part that I'm most concerned about, because that's where the separation usually always starts. I will be stitching these, of course, still, so it's time to do our stitching. I went ahead and let these dry for a little bit. They're definitely not all the way dry, but they are dry enough. Okay. Now, we're gonna back it out just a little bit. And with our inner piece of thread, run it through this side. Pull it through. Pull your sewing all out. Boom. Okay, now like I said, just yank tight on both pieces. Boom. I got a little bit of blood because I jabbed the sewing needle into my finger on accident, but that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this finished now, and I'll be back when I'm done. Alright, so once you finish your stitch, you basically can just take all four ends and tie them together in a knot. And I just took a dab of super glue and just dabbed them all together right there. That way they stay in place. I went ahead and let these dry overnight the rest of the way. Lacing these babies up. Alright guys, there they are. Let's go ahead and put these babies on our feet, see how they look.